Moms, 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 happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne, and I wanted to come on here today and talk a little bit about you moms out there, you mothers out there, you amazing women out there who are raising children or who have raised children. This is your shout out day. Happy Mother's Day to you. I wanted to talk a little bit about motherhood and my journey as a mom, as well as your journey. And so first of all, I want to share with you my beautiful day out here. It's absolutely beautiful. And my children bought me beautiful gifts, of course, from the heart. And my husband, he gave me a card, flowers, and he bought me a 6-month gift certificate to my favorite car wash, which is like a car spa, and I can go as much as I want every day if I want, and I love it. And so I went over and I had my car washed, and it's the very same one that I did the video called Stuck in the Car Wash, where I had to back out of the car wash. So I'm excited, and we are going to have dinner as a family here, and my one son is out there doing, even though I had my truck washed, he's doing the cars and putting extra wax on them and shining them up inside. And my other son is doing some little chores around here, and then we're going to sit down and enjoy. And I think they are all going golfing. That's what they love to do. A family of golfers, except for me. I don't golf. I do putt-putt though. Well, getting back to talking about moms and mothers, and I've talked a lot about them in the past. First of all, I miss my mom. My mom has been passed over. She's been gone for about 11 years, and she had severe Parkinson's and ALS at the end of her life, and it was very debilitating to her and to us to see her that way. I took wonderful care of my mom for about 3 years at the very end, and I was always a wonderful daughter because my mother was an amazing mother. And I so miss her company. I so miss my phone calls to her at night. When we lived in Europe, because the phone rates were so high and we didn't have email in the beginning, we caught on to doing fax machines. So we would fax each other letters back, and it would only cost us a minute of phone time. And we would do that a couple times a day. She would handwrite her letters, and I still have them. And she would fax those to me. And I would, type up one and fax it back to her. Later, we got her up on what was called web TV, which was like email. And when we got email over there, and so we were constantly emailing. And in the very beginning of when I lived in Europe, we would call each other like every day for 10 minutes. And it was just a very short, fast call. And we cherished those calls. My mom and I talked every single day. And when she took sick, my husband had to drive out to California to pick her up. And because that's not where she was originally from, but she had lived her last many years out there. And he brought her back to Texas, and through that move back to Georgia. And I took care of my mom. I had 3 small children. At the time, I was homeschooling, and my mom was very, very ill. She lived in my home with me. And then at the very end, she had to go to a nursing home, but I cared for her on a daily level at the nursing home because, well, at that point, I was unable to take care of her at home safely because she had lost all of her bodily functions. And so, but I miss her. I miss the strong woman she was. She would drive back and forth across the country in her car, and she would pile all of her suitcases in boxes, and she was always moving. She loved to move. And I just truly miss my journey with my mom. I miss the support, the love, the caring. And And one of the most amazing things about my mom that I remember the most is whenever I would go visit her, I lived in Newport Beach, and I would drive out to where she lived in Palm Springs. And even if she wasn't there, I had a key. And so I would go in, and she always had food waiting for me on the table, chips and salsa and all the goodies that I liked. And she would do my laundry for me when I came out. She was just an amazing, 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 amazing mom. And so my journey as a mom, well, I have 3 young adult kids now in college, and 2 of which live at home. My daughter has her own apartment now. And, when my children were babies and toddlers, it was the most magical, incredible time of my life. Every period of my life I cherish. Every season of my life I cherish the season I'm in. I believe in creating and making each season the very, very best that you get. Every season is special. And so this season is very special with my children as young adults. And yet the most magical time was when they were babies, because it was just magical. We lived on the beach, and we still have our home there, but we lived on the beach full time at the time. We would put them in the little rider wagon, all 3, they would fit in there. I would pull them on the sand and on the beach, and they would get out and feed the seagulls. They had their little life vests on, and we would feed the seagulls bread. And so it was so magical. We had motorhome trips. I homeschooled. I loved being a mom. I stayed home. I was a full-time mom. I was a mommy. I did homeschooling in the car. I did homeschooling in the front yard. I did homeschooling in the house. And I loved it. I loved that journey of homeschool, of being a mom, of being a hands-on mom in homeschool land, doing everything like that, doing little field trips. We colored Easter eggs. We went to every vacation Bible school that was in the area every year. My kids kind of, they went to all the church activities, sports activities, you name it. And so I love my kids. They have enormous hearts. They all 3 have these wonderful, amazing hearts. And, there were challenging times, such challenging times too. When they were little, they would get sick. My husband was gone. He was traveling, for his career. And I remember getting sick. They got sick. They all 3 got a cold, because it was cold season, and everybody on the island that we were living on got sick. And my children were coughing and sick. And I was sick. And my back went out because I was carrying them around all the time. And, so there were tough moments. And I remember when my one son started throwing up, and he was about 10 years old. And I right away knew he had appendicitis. And I rushed him to the doctor, and we had to rush to Children's Hospital in Atlanta. I didn't know where it was. I had an old GPS, and it was slow, but I got him there, and I was so scared. And he had to have the appendectomy. And I stayed with him the entire time in his room, never left his side, always made sure that one of us was there. When my daughter suddenly took sick 2 years ago, and it was it was like an overnight type of thing. And the doctors thought she had the flu, and she didn't. And I knew she didn't. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't the flu. And so what happened at that point was I kept taking her back. As a mom, I knew something was wrong. And finally, I had decided to take her to the ER when her one doctor called and said, get her to the ER. Long story short, she had to go to a university hospital. She had to have major life-saving surgery. And that's a whole nother video called portal vein thrombosis. And I've done that video already. And it was, so close, the timing, and it was very scary. But I stayed with her the entire time. I drove back and forth because I was still homeschooling. And my husband took off work. He stayed with the boys down here. I was up there. And we were just going back and forth and back and forth. And I was going back and forth as a 60-year-old woman at the time. it was pretty tough because I was carrying suitcases and going through tunnels and, you name it, it was going on in our lives. And it was a very stressful time. So I understand what it's like to go through difficult and challenging times raising children. And, my children are wonderful and amazing individuals, but they've had their, their moments. And like all teenagers do, I often say you're not a real parent until you raise a teenager. And those who are raising teenagers or who have raised teenagers know what I'm talking about. So you go that journey as well. And so now my children are young adults and I love, love, love them. I have a very, very close relationship with each one of my children. And yet they're finding their own way in life as well. And so I have to step back, and instead of being the key player in their lives, I have to kind of step back a little bit and be more of a, I don't want to say secondary player, but kind of a subordinate player, as you would talk about in a movie or whatever. And so that I can let them find their way and their journey in life. And so being a mom is the most important role you will ever have in your life. And enjoy it. Number one, enjoy it. I was so blessed to be able to be a stay-at-home mom and to give my 110% to my children. A lot of moms stay home, but they don't do a good job. I did an excellent job, a fantastic job at both being a mom and being a daughter. And I'm proud of it. Was it times exhausting? Was I wore out? Absolutely, absolutely. And yet, it was the best journey I've ever been on. Even with all of its ups and downs and ins and outs and all that goes along with it, it's been the best journey I have ever been on. So what I'm saying to you is to enjoy your journey as a mother. And don't sweat the small stuff. You will get through it. And cherish your moments. Cherish your moments. And applaud yourself. Applaud yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You do not have to be perfect as a mom. Just be a great mom. Okay? Happy Mother's Day. From my house to yours. May God bless you. And I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.